On today's episode, we're going to be gaming on this 10-year-old graphics card, and we're going to see how it plays games in 2026. What we've got our hands on today is the GTX 1060. This one has 1280 cores, 6 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory. These also came in a 3 gigabyte variant as well later on, but the memory is running on a 192-bit bus. This card was actually very popular back in the day. In fact, it was popular for a good while. It actually held the top spot on the Steam hardware survey from 2017 to 2022, so it's definitely a very popular card. And this card came out in July 19th of 2016. This card has one 8-pin connector, this one in particular, and it has a TDP of 120 watts. As far as what kind of displays you can hook up to this guy, we've got one DVI, one HDMI 2.0, and 3 DisplayPort 1.4a. This mid-ranger of a card is paired up to a Ryzen 9 9900X and 32 gigabytes of DDR5 memory running at 6000. I want to tell you guys a story about this card. I actually have had this card in my computer. I got this when it first came out. Obviously it's not this one. I had a blower style Asus one. If I could find a picture of it in my computer back in the day, I'll put it up somewhere in the video. But this card right here, it definitely has a place in my heart. I had the 6 gig as well. I actually have had that paired up to an FX 8350. I know that sounds crazy, a processor from like 2012. You know what? That thing hauled ass at the time. And I want to see how it does in 2026. My buddy Techie Block is letting me borrow his card. Thank you for that. Let's get into some games. Let's throw some more modern games at it and see what this can do with, you know, having 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Let's get right into it. Starting off with one of the most demanding games known to man, we've got Cyberpunk loaded up here. We have our settings at 1080p medium/low, and we are actually getting an average of 47 FPS and only got a minimum of 32 FPS. I gotta say, for a card this old and for a game this demanding, this is quite impressive and definitely a playable experience. You would actually get even more playable results if you lower the settings even more and played around with the resolution. I gotta say, this is pretty good. Something new to the channel, we have some Apex Legends fired up. I have no idea how to play this game. I'm not very good at it. I've never really played this game. For the sake of the video, we're just benchmarking it for the frame rate. We have it at 1440p with medium and high settings, and we're actually getting a solid 64 FPS average, a minimum of only 50 FPS, and a maximum of 86 FPS. This was quite a solid experience for 1440p. Definitely very playable, very smooth in my opinion. I would say this is good. Of course, we had to fire up some Fortnite. We have this one at 1440p with a mixture of high and medium settings, and we're actually getting a very respectable 170 FPS average, a minimum of 116 FPS, and a maximum of 212. For a competitive experience, this is very solid even for a card this old, and I had a fantastic time playing this game. This is pretty good. Loaded up some Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. We have this game at 1440p with a mixture of low, high, and medium settings, a mixture of them all. And we are actually getting an average of 54 FPS, a minimum of 41 FPS, and a maximum of 75 FPS. This was a pretty fluid experience. I would say this is playable, pretty solid. I have to say, this game really likes to eat the VRAM. It's completely pegging it out to the max, but that's to be expected with this game. But overall, pretty decent. Playing some Valorant now, we have it at 4K with the medium settings, and we are getting a pretty solid 216 FPS average, a minimum of 115 FPS, and a maximum of 273 FPS. Pretty solid, pretty fluid experience. Definitely more than playable of a game. I definitely would say this is good. But to be fair, this game can really run on a toaster, to be honest with you, but it's still cool to see this game run. Fired up some Call of Duty Black Ops 3. We have this at 1440p with high settings actually, and we're getting a very solid 120 FPS average, only a minimum of 98 FPS and a maximum of 157 FPS. I'm quite surprised this game is actually running at 1440p with high settings on this card. That is definitely a pleasant surprise. One of the most popular games loaded up, Grand Theft Auto 5. We have this at 1440p with very high and high settings, and we're getting a respectable 95 FPS average, only a minimum of 76 FPS, and a maximum of 114 FPS. You're definitely rocking with this. Got Overwatch 2 loaded up. We have this running at 1440p with epic settings, and we are actually getting an average of 72 FPS, got a minimum of 37. That's obviously when things got hectic, and a maximum of 93 FPS. Definitely a playable experience. I had a pretty good time. Got some Witcher 3 going. We have this at 1440p with high settings and dynamic resolution, and we're getting a playable 53 FPS average, a minimum of 28 FPS. I don't know when that happened. Probably a lag spike, and a maximum of 61 FPS. Pretty solid experience, not bad. Here we go, some Borderlands 3. We have this at 1440p with medium settings, and we're actually getting an average of 52 FPS, only dropped down to a minimum of 45 FPS, and a maximum frame rate of 58 FPS. I gotta say, this game was playable, and it looked pretty good too. I wanted to fire up some Doom. We have it at 1440p with the high settings, and we are getting a very respectable 82 FPS average, only a minimum of 51 FPS, a maximum of 126 FPS. Very solid experience. The game looked very good. I was very pleased with this. Alright guys, we're back. I'm filming this on another day. Pretty rainy. We're under a roof right now. I'll tell you what I think about this GTX 1060. 10 years later pretty much. If you can find this card for around 50 to 60 bucks, 70 bucks on eBay, obviously the 6GB variant, I would say this is a pretty good card still if you're not playing anything too crazy. I mean, if you got a few demanding games and you can set your expectations a little bit lower with like the settings, this will still be a fine experience, even with it having 6GB of video memory. Since this card is a 10 series card and they don't make drivers for this card anymore, and all the games ran pretty solid for what they were, even though the drivers were a little bit dated. I will be giving this card a bogus score. What I think is fair for this card, for the value and the performance it has 10 years later, I'll give it a modest 7 out of 10 bogus score. For the price, and if you can find it for pretty cheap, pretty solid card. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe for more content, and one last thing. Recommend me more games to benchmark. I want to see what you guys like and what is popular, and some a little bit more demanding for these cards. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.